My name is Mary Lou, and we are in the coastal range in Oregon. Well, I've always been interested in gardening. I always had a vegetable garden. Was a reluctant gardener as a child and thought I would never be gardening, but I was away from home about 2 years before I really had to have a garden. So my children grew up gardening with me, and when I retired, I just wanted to live out in the forest and have a nice garden. So here we are. Right now I'm just going to open up the greenhouse so that it doesn't get too warm in here. You don't really need a greenhouse to be able to start your plants. You just have a sunny window and you can get them started inside a little bit sooner. Than you can get them started outside. So right now, because we're up in the mountains a little bit, our nighttime temperatures are in the mid-30s, and we could still have a hard frost all the way into May. So depending on where you live, if you're having warmer nighttime temperatures and you're past your last frost date, you can be planting things outside. However, like I said, the broccoli, the cabbage, the slugs just love all those. So I do recommend starting them in pots with a seedling mix because they'll just get a stronger start. The best thing to plant right now is lettuce, broccoli, kale, chard, arugula, things that really sell good at market and that are fairly easy to grow. Peas, beans, broccoli, cabbage, lettuce, zucchini. And if you live in a cooler climate like this, you'd want to wait a while before starting zucchini seeds because they start growing real fast and get big real fast. And they can't really be planted outside until the middle of May. If you have a possibility of a late frost would kill them. But those are pretty much the big sellers. If we're starting a lot of seeds, which most home gardeners wouldn't start this many, we would use what we call a plug tray. So filling this with seed starting mix and then one seed per square. So for market gardening, I might be starting 200 lettuce in here, 3 or 4 different types of lettuce. More practical for regular home gardener is starting it like in 6 packs, something like this. And when you're starting the seeds, it's good to have a really light soil so that the seeds can push up through the soil easily. This is seedling mix, which is what we use to either for cuttings or for seed starting. So it's a real fine soil. It's got a lot of peat in it, and it holds the moisture, but it's just very fine. It's easy for the seeds to poke their little heads up through the soil. So I would fill the pot with that. I see some lumps and clumps there. They break up pretty easy. I just level it off. If the soil is very dry, you should water the soil first. Otherwise, when you go to water the seeds, the soil is not absorbing the water. So then, with lettuce seeds, because they're so tiny, I just it's hard to even just put one, but I put a seed in each little individual part of the container. I only had 3 seeds. And then, because the seeds are little, they don't really need to be buried very deep. So I just put a little sprinkle of soil over the top of the seeds. General rule of thumb is you plant the seeds in equal depth to the size of the seed. So if we're planting a pea seed that's maybe as big around as my fingernail, I would just make a little hole in the soil like that I would drop in the pea seed like that, and then just put the soil back over the top. So once that has the seeds in, then you're going to want to water it. Just mist it like that till it's nice and wet. And then I just line up all the plants in there. If I'm only starting like 4 or 5 of these, something that works really good to hold them and keep the moisture are the recycle the clear plastic bins that lettuce or greens come in, and you can just set, depending on the size, 3 or 4 of these in one of those clear plastic bins. Don't put the cover on it, but it'll keep the water from draining through onto your windowsill. And just be sure they stay damp, because if they dry out, then the seed's going to dry out and die and not continue sprouting. And different seeds take longer to sprout than others. Radish seeds, radishes you could plant right now. You could even plant those outside right now. Radish seeds will be sprouting like in 3 or 4 days. When you get to warmer weather things, it can take as long as 3 weeks for pepper seeds to sprout. If you're trying to grow pepper plants, you want to have them in a real warm place because they like the warmth, and it takes a long time for them to germinate. Let's see, what else? All this is self-seeded. That means we grew lettuce in here last summer, and we let some of the lettuce plants just go to seed. They flower and go to seed, and then we have lettuce all over the place. So we have, down here is a lettuce plant that looks pretty dead. This is what it looks like after it has gone to seed, and the seeds are just real little itty bitty seeds right there, and then they'll start growing wherever. This again is arugula, which is going to seed, and we just let some of it go to seed so the bees can eat and we don't have to plant it. This broccoli was planted last August, and it struggled through the winter, and then in mid-January we started getting more light and it started growing and flowering. So I've harvested broccoli about 5 times from that. There's a greenhouse cat who helps catch mice and keep our little baby plants from being eaten. Well, it's something I love and I have fun doing, and we experiment with a lot of different things around here. We use tried and true for market crops that we want to be sure we have a lot of produce to market. But then there's other things like, I wonder if I could grow okra here. We put it out in the garden. We have kind of a cool, wet summer. No, okra doesn't grow very good. Now I have a greenhouse. I'm going to try to grow okra in here this summer, and it's time for me to be getting those seeds started. We use the greenhouse for crops that like warmer nights and a longer growing season. It's nice to have a greenhouse.
Yeah, it's a wonderful greenhouse.